Welcome to Peachtree Injury Talk with attorney Jordan Jewkes.
Welcome to Peachtree Injury Talk with Jordan Jewkes. Jordan strives to give injured victims a voice and provide strong advocacy against an often broken system. As a seasoned trial lawyer and former insurance defense attorney, Jordan now uses the insider knowledge to fight for injury victims across Georgia. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about how insurance companies use recorded statements to deny claims and what you need to know before you say a single word. Welcome, Jordan.
Thanks, Evan. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Today's episode is Recorded and Denied, how insurance companies use your words against you. So let's get right into it, Jordan. Let's start with the basics. What is a recorded statement, and when do insurance companies usually ask for one after a car accident?
Hey, Evan. Well, again, thanks for having me. Super excited to talk about this. It's really important. So I guess to start from the top, let me preface everything that I say today in our session that the insurance companies will do whatever they can to minimize the value of your claim and even be able to deny your claim. But ultimately, what they have to do is they have to collect documentation, they have to collect evidence, photographs, the police report, these types of things. And so a recorded statement of the parties involved in the wreck is one of those ways that they collect statements, hopefully for them to be able to deny or minimize your claim. Does that make sense? And so the process of them adjusting and processing a claim, obtaining a statement is part of their evidence gathering, building their file. And so what they want to do is take recorded statements of, if it's a car wreck, of both drivers and potentially witnesses to the car wreck. So that's kind of where these recorded statements arise from and why they're important to the insurance companies.
So you kind of work both sides. Why are insurance companies so eager to get people on record so quickly? What are they really looking for?
Yeah, and that is sort of the golden question. And so the insurance companies, they need to, first of all, to establish fault or liability. Because in a typical car wreck case, you're going to have driver A and driver B get into an impact. Usually the police are called out, and the police will sort of gather evidence and do their own investigation and at least make a cursory determination of who is at fault. That cursory sort of investigation, what's shown on the police report, of course, is not ultimately binding on the insurance company, right? And so the insurance companies, they perform their own investigation and make their own determination of who is at fault. And often they rely on the police reports, but they don't have to. And so in some instances, especially if it's not clear which driver, broke the law or failed to yield or which one made an improper left-hand turn, if there's some degree of if there's some cloudiness as to who's at fault, if there's gray area, if it's not clear who's at fault, the insurance companies will take the recorded statements of the drivers to ascertain first and foremost who's at fault. And so again, if there's two parties involved, there's likely going to be two different insurance companies, insurance A, insurance B, and neither of them really are going to want to pay for the claim. And so both of them will try and take, in their perfect world, a recorded statement of both drivers to sort of hammer down the facts, the story, and who's at fault. So determining who's at fault is sort of their primary purpose. And then secondary to that, I would say, is maybe which coverage applies, if there's secondary coverage, and then also what are the injuries, what might their exposure be to the, on the claim.
But what are some of the most common mistakes people make when giving a recorded statement that end up hurting their claim maybe down the road?
I mean, so I would say, just in general, you don't want to give a recorded statement to the other party's insurance company.
Mm.
I just say that across the board because even in a case where you feel like you almost have nothing to lose, I'm just going to say it because I'm very sure what happened. It almost always will hurt you more than it helps you.
Wow.
And the fact that it's recorded means that it can be used against you very, very clearly one day. And and so I if someone were to come into my office, Evan, if you were to come to my office and say, hey, I was in a car wreck, I would say be careful giving a recorded statement to the other driver's insurance, because that recorded statement may be used against you in court one day. Kind of like the I call it the Miranda rights of the civil law. Miranda rights is, of course, is what arresting officers have to. They have to give someone their Miranda rights as
Yep.
they're being arrested, so that the person who's being arrested knows that anything they say can and will be used against you in the court of law. Giving a recorded statement willingly is the same idea, that if you willingly go down that road, they're going to have your voice, your inflections, everything that you said about the wreck, without you really having a chance to talk to counsel or to weigh all the evidence. They're going to have all that, and very often that'll be used against you, because and really the reason is, Evan, is because most people are good natured, and they want a quick resolution to things.
Yep.
And so people often will say, well, I'm sorry this happened, and maybe it was partially my fault. And they'll just make little statements like that, that at the time seem very harmless, like they're not a big deal. But the insurance companies, that's what they want you to do. They want you to admit fault, or they want you to say something that's actually going to hurt you, so that a lawyer down the road can say, well, Evan, you said this, 2 days after the wreck to our insurance company, and why are you now denying it? Well, I said that I wasn't really injured because my back wasn't hurting at the time, but I woke up the next day and I could barely move. I was so stiff. And then I went to the doctor and he told me I have a herniated disc. It's those types of little statements where you say, I think I'm okay. Or, hey, I'm sorry this happened, that can ultimately really, really hurt you.
But can an innocent comment, maybe like I feel fine, or I didn't see the other car, can it really be used against someone in court or in maybe settlement negotiations?
I mean, I've seen it 100 times. So yeah, I
Wow.
mean, and that's the thing. And with the law, words matter, right?
Mhm.
And so and credibility matters, and what you say on day one matters as much on day 100. And so when you are openly making statements to the opposite party, through the adversary, and I hate to use that word, but to the adversarial party, those statements generally are admissible in court. And so when you openly state those, you just need to be really, really careful. And so having counsel, having an attorney kind of walk you through that and say, we don't want to depart from the truth, but how we characterize it is really important. So having someone along your side as you go that direction is really, really important.
Mm. What should an injury victim do if the insurance adjuster calls and asks for that recorded statement before they've even spoken to a lawyer?
Say, hey, I need to speak to a lawyer. But let me be clear. So if you are in a wreck and you have your own insurance, your policy provisions in your own insurance, right? Your own auto carrier requires you to give a statement if asked, right? So that's different than, Evan, if you are hit by another driver and that other driver's insurance comes and says, Evan, we want to take your statement. You have every
Mhm.
right there to say, not so fast. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk to an attorney.
Mhm.
When your own insurance that you pay for and your policy, when they come to you and say, hey, before we proceed on this, we need to take your statement, eventually you have to give your statement.
Okay.
And so again, but you have every right to them to say, you know what, I'm a little nervous about this. Before I give a statement, I just want to talk to my trusted attorney to make sure, I'm protecting my rights. They have to respect that. You don't have to give a statement the day they call. You can arrange to do that at a future date, usually somewhere around 30 days out. And again, to your point, what's the harm in those little statements? Sometimes the devil is in the details, and
Right.
we've seen some cases really turned where someone said, within the first couple of days after wreck, I think I'm okay, when really they didn't know the extent, or that soreness was really something much more significant than just a sprain or a strained muscle or something like that.
Mm. Are there legal requirements to provide Provide that recorded statement. And does it matter if your insurance company versus the the other drivers? You know what I mean? Like, I know you're kind of saying that you really don't have to, but I feel some people kind of get intimidated in that situation where they feel like they have to do that at the point in time. I don't. I think they feel maybe nervous or wrong to say no, but are there requirements to provide that recorded statement?
The short answer is no, but
Okay.
you never have to give a recorded statement or even speak to the other driver's insurance. So if it's not your insurance company, you don't have to give a statement to them at all. Now that may delay the resolution of the claim. Um, you technically don't have to give a recorded statement to your own insurance company, but that is a matter of contract. And so if you are paying for a policy premium through your insurance carrier, your auto carrier, and you say, well, look, I know the policy says I got to give a statement, but you say, I just don't want to. The next thing that's going to happen is they're going to disclaim coverage and probably say, hey, we're going to cancel your policy because you're refusing to cooperate. So if when you purchase an auto policy, one of your obligations is to follow the terms of the policy. The insurance company has to follow the terms of the policy. They're going to adjust your claim as long as you cooperate. So they're going to want a recorded statement from you, and you're going to have to give it if you want to continue to have coverage under that policy. So while the law doesn't legally force you to do that, you need to do it if you want to maintain coverage through your own insurance company.
Mm. But how do you, as attorney, protect your clients, during this process, or respond when a damaging statement has already been made?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's really what we do here on a day-to-day basis. But we sit in with our clients on recorded statements regularly with their own insurance company, and
Okay.
so their own insurance company will set up a time. We will let our client know, and generally they will want to know just basic information: what happened in the wreck, were they wearing their seatbelt, did airbags deploy, what lane of travel were they in. And sometimes they want to know about passengers or want to make sure that the policy was in effect at the time that the car was being driven. Usually fairly basic things. They don't. Once we get involved, they don't usually go into the bodily injury aspect of it. But if we are not involved, they go in usually pretty deep, and they'll want to say, "Well, what doctors have you seen, and what are they telling you?" All these types of things, because we tell them, up front, the insurance. We tell the insurance company up front, let us deal with our clients' injuries. Just know that they're injured and they're getting treatment. And beyond that, the insurance companies won't usually talk about that in their statement. But if a statement, to further answer your question, if a statement has been given already, the first thing we'll do is we'll go and we'll get a transcript. We'll ask the other driver's insurance company for a copy of that statement, and they have to provide it. Under the law, they have to give us a copy of that. And then once we get it, we can kind of review it, and then if further explanation is necessary, to be able to do that. And usually insurance companies know, and most folks know. If you say, hey, look, the day of the wreck, hey, I'm sore, but I think I'm okay. Most people know that true onset of injuries isn't known for sometimes several days or even several months after. And so if an insurance company pulls that line really hard that, hey, well, you told us the day of the wreck that you were fine, and then 2 weeks later you're going to see a chiropractor or going to see an orthopedist, I think most people in the general public, they will know when an insurance company is trying to pull a fast one like that. So there's things we can do, but you got to be careful and very intentional about it.
Jordan, do you have a real case, a case that you can remember where a recorded statement either helped or hurt, a client or a case?
Yeah, I mean, it happens very regularly, to be honest. And Evan, I tell people this all the time. If the insurance companies really acted in good faith, and there are certainly good adjusters out there who do that. But if they really operated in a way to help people rather than to minimize claims, in other words, if their purpose was to say, Evan, look, we know you're in a wreck. We want to pay for your medical bills. We want to make sure you get back to work. We're going to give you a fair settlement for any permanent issues or pain and suffering you have. Then I would say, Evan, yeah, go give them a recorded statement, help them build their case file, honestly, I wouldn't have a job if that were the case. But what we see happen so often, I mean, and literally would happen in every case if possible, if it got to that stage, is the insurance companies, they take these claims with an eye towards minimizing the claim and closing it out as soon as they possibly can. And many insurance companies actually bonus or pay their adjusters on how quickly they can close out a claim. And so that happens very, very regularly. And sometimes someone will say, hey, they'll come into my office. And again, this happens regularly. Hey, Jordan, I thought that, this back or neck injury or shoulder issue would go away within a few days. I gave a recorded statement. But they're wanting to pay me $1,000, but I've now been given a referral for an MRI and to go to my local orthopedist surgeon. And I'll just say to them, hey, look, we'll get a copy of the recorded statement. Don't worry about it. You go and get the treatment you need, and we'll kind of go from there. So it happens pretty regularly. I will say that. I can't think of one off the top of my head because it's so common, and the facts are not really ever that different. So.
And finally, though, Jordan, what's your best advice for someone who just got into a wreck and they don't want to maybe say the wrong thing, or doesn't want to ignore calls? Like, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, just be a good citizen and be compassionate, but don't make any admissions that you're not 100% certain of. And what I mean by that is don't admit fault. It's always nice to say, hey, are you okay, to the other party? To say, I'm sorry this happened, but stick up for yourself as well. When those insurance calls start coming, I would just be really leery of saying a given recorded statement. And in fact, if you've ever been through the process before of calling an insurance company and trying to work out a claim, at the beginning of almost any phone call to an insurance company, there's usually an automated message that says, these calls may be recorded. And so I tell my clients, anytime you talk to either insurance company, assume that your statement and your conversation is being recorded. But just be diligent and be an honest person, and then engage counsel sooner than later. The sooner you call an attorney, generally speaking, the more help we're going to be, because we can start helping in the process of getting appropriate medical treatment and sort of controlling the narrative of what happened. And because if we don't do it, the insurance companies will do that. And you just have to have someone advocate for you.
Awesome. Jordan, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Anytime. Thanks, Evan. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And thank you all for tuning in to Peachtree Injury Law with Jordan Jewkes. To connect with Jordan and his team, visit jukesfirm.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.